$11.50 an hour. That's the number on your pay stub, folded in your back pocket on the walk to the bus stop. Your manager calls you by the wrong name for the third week in a row and doesn't correct it when you correct him. Here's the part nobody warns you about job number one. It isn't just a paycheck. It's the first draft of how the entire workplace decides to treat you, and that draft gets rewritten 8 more times on the way to the top of this ladder. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what your job looks like at every one of those 9 levels, who starts deferring to you, who starts reporting to you, and who in your own family has no idea what a career this size even means because nobody who raised you has ever had one. 9 levels. A time clock, a badge reader, a cubicle, a door with your name on it. There's a level in here where recruiters start finding you instead of the other way around. And a level past that where your own father can't explain to his friends what you actually do for work anymore. Let's clock in at the bottom, where you actually are right now. Level 0. $11.50 an hour, hourly, no benefits, a schedule that changes every Sunday night and you find out by checking an app. Nobody at this job is threatened by you, and nobody is rooting for you either. You're a line on a spreadsheet labeled labor cost. Your manager doesn't learn your last name because turnover at this level runs so high, close to 60% a year in jobs like this one, it genuinely isn't worth the effort. A customer talks over you mid-sentence, not out of cruelty, just habit. The habit of talking over anyone standing behind a counter. Coworkers are friendly the way people are friendly. In a waiting room, pleasant, temporary, nobody's exchanging numbers, because half of them won't be here in 3 months either. And here's the twist that actually lands hardest. Your family isn't disappointed in you at this level. They're not even paying attention. Because a job is a job to people who've only ever had jobs that were also just jobs. Your uncle asks if you're still at the same place, not out of concern, just because he genuinely can't remember which place it was, and he won't ask a follow-up question either way. The reframe worth keeping. At level 0, you're not being underestimated. You're not being estimated at all. Nobody has looked closely enough yet to be wrong about you, which means the only data anyone has on you so far is that you show up. Level 1. You've moved into a role with a title, an actual name for what you do, built on 18 months of showing up on time, never missing a shift, and asking for more responsibility before anyone offered it. On the surface, almost nothing changed. Customers still don't remember your face. Something shifts one level up. Your manager starts asking your opinion on the schedule before publishing it. A small thing. The first small thing. And small things are how every level in this video actually starts. Here's this level's trap. A title with no raise attached to it feels like recognition and functions like a discount. You're now doing judgment work for hourly pay, maybe 50 cents more an hour for a title that used to belong to someone making $4 more, and the job description grows quietly while the number on the pay stub doesn't. A coworker who's been there longer starts making pointed comments about who management likes better, treating your title like you stole something instead of earned it. The reframe. The first title is rarely the company recognizing your value. It's the company testing whether you'll do more for the same money before they have to decide whether you're worth paying differently, and most people pass that test for years without noticing it's a test at all. Level 2. $52,000 a year, salaried, benefits, a badge that opens the door the hourly staff has to be buzzed through instead. This is the first level where work itself starts treating you like a permanent fixture rather than a placeholder. Your manager stops scheduling around you and starts scheduling with you, looping you into the planning meeting instead of just handing you the result of it. Coworkers at this level stop explaining the basics before they ask you to do something. They just assume you already know. A courtesy nobody extended you 18 months ago. And family produces its first real question about the job itself. Not congratulations. A question. Is this the kind of job you could actually retire from, the way Grandpa did? Here's the twist nobody preps you for. A salaried title is the first marker your family can actually picture, because Grandpa had one of those too. And suddenly your career fits inside a story they already know how to tell. Your mother starts introducing you by the company's name instead of your job, proud of the noun, uncertain about the verb. The reframe worth keeping. The first salaried job doesn't make your family understand your career. It gives them a familiar enough shape to stop asking questions about it, which feels like approval and is actually relief. Level 3. You're managing people now, 5 direct reports built on 2 years of being the person who fixed problems, nobody assigned to you until fixing problems became the job, and a title finally caught up to work. You'd already been doing unpaid for months. The win looks obvious from outside. An office, a calendar full of meetings, your name on an org chart. Strangers at a party hear, "I manage a team," and their whole posture changes toward you. Quiet deference for a title they can't actually evaluate. Coworkers below you start filtering what they say around you, choosing words the way people choose words around someone who signs their reviews. But this level's trap is the one that catches almost everyone. You're now responsible for outcomes you don't fully control. And the first time someone on your team fails publicly, it lands on your desk, not theirs, in writing, with your name at the top of the email. A peer manager, watching you absorb that blame without complaint, starts quietly routing their own headaches to you too, because you're the one who doesn't push back. The reframe. Management isn't a promotion out of the hard work. It's a promotion into owning everyone else's hard work as well as your own. And nobody tells you that in the job posting, because if they did, fewer people would raise their hand for it. Level 4. Director. $145,000 a year, plus a bonus structure, plus a budget you actually sign off on instead of just following, built on 3 years of being the manager other managers quietly copied. The status win here looks complete. You sit in meetings your old manager never got invited into, and your calendar gets built around by people you've never met. And here is where the family relationship turns visibly different for the first time. Your father, who spent 30 years clocking into the same shift at the same plant, stops asking what you do all day, not because he's unimpressed, but because the honest answer would require him to admit he doesn't know what half the words in your job title mean. An aunt starts asking you, instead of her own son, to look over his resume because, somewhere in the family, it's been decided that you're the one who understands how jobs like this actually work now. Here's the reframing line worth sitting with. A director's salary doesn't buy you respect at home. It buys you a new job nobody pays you for, translating what you do all day into words your own family can actually use. If your family can't explain your job to their friends anymore, drop a comment. Tell me what they say instead. Quick thing before we keep going. If this is landing, subscribe. It's the easiest way to make sure the next one reaches you. Okay, back to it. Level 5. Vice President. $240,000 base, equity that's finally worth mentioning out loud, built on being the director recruiters started calling without being asked to. This is the level where your own industry starts treating you as a reference point instead of a participant. People you've never worked with cite a project you ran as the example in their own interviews. A former boss, the one who passed you over for this exact title 3 years ago, messages you first this time, asking if you'd consider sitting on a panel he's organizing. Junior employees at your own company start treating a meeting with you as a career event worth preparing for, rehearsing what they'll say the way you once rehearsed for your own manager. Family splits here for the first time into 2 distinct reactions. A younger cousin starts quietly asking you for actual career advice, which job to take, how to negotiate, what a recruiter call even means. An older relative starts introducing you at gatherings as proof that the family is doing fine now, using your title to answer a question nobody asked about the family's whole situation. The reframe: becoming a reference point in your industry doesn't make you more impressive to the people who raised you. It makes you useful to them in a new way, as evidence, which is a heavier job than the one on your business card. Level 6. Your first million in total career compensation, counted across salary, bonus, and vested equity added together for the first time, 9 years after the break room and the schedule app. At work, you notice something new. People stop asking you to justify your decisions in meetings and start asking you to explain them afterward instead. A small shift that changes everything about how a room argues with you. A recruiter who rejected you flatly at level 2 resurfaces with a different offer entirely. This time addressed to you by name instead of a form letter. But the family fault line at this level runs the deepest of the whole ladder, because your family has never had anyone in it who built a career worth $1 million, and nobody in the family knows what you're supposed to do with that fact at Thanksgiving. A sibling stops mentioning your job at all, not out of spite, because every version of bringing it up sounds either like bragging on your behalf or like asking you for something, and neither one feels safe to say out loud. Here's the line worth keeping from this level. your family isn't avoiding the subject of your career because they stopped caring. They're avoiding it because nobody taught them the words for being proud of something they've never had a reason to practice saying. Level 7. Chief Officer. A seat at the executive table, built on 6 years of hiring decisions that finally started compounding. One good hire, making the next good hire easier to spot before anyone else sees it. At this level, the job itself changes shape. You stop being evaluated on your own output and start being evaluated on the output of people you chose, which means every meeting is now partly a referendum on your judgment about other people. The board starts asking you questions about succession. Who takes over if you leave? A question nobody asks you at any earlier level, and one that quietly tells you how replaceable the company now assumes you to be. The twist here is quieter than the earlier ones, but heavier. You start noticing which executives only speak to you in front of other people, performing alignment for an audience rather than actually agreeing with you. Family splits again here, but differently than at level 5. Now some relatives start asking whether your company is hiring carefully, for themselves or for someone else in the family, testing whether your authority at work extends to opening a door for them. Here's what changes at this level that nobody warns you about. You start sorting your own relatives by whether a job opening would come up in the conversation, a math problem your family never asked you to solve. The executives who never mention hiring become the ones you actually tell things to. Level 8. Founder, or CEO, of your own company. The person whose signature actually closes the hiring decisions everyone else in the building only recommends. This is the level where the job finishes turning inside out. You no longer apply for work, work applies for you, in the form of partnership proposals and acquisition calls from people who found your company before they ever found you. A former interviewer who rejected you at level 1, the one who never called back after the second round, now runs a company that just asked yours for a meeting. Employees route information to you through 3 layers of managers before it ever reaches your desk, each layer quietly deciding what's worth your time and what isn't. And family has, by this point, mostly stopped asking about work altogether, because nobody in the family has the vocabulary for a job this shape, and guessing wrong feels worse than not asking. The relatives who used to ask detailed questions about your career now just ask if you're eating enough and sleeping, retreating to the one kind of concern that never requires understanding the job itself. There is exactly one cousin who still texts you dumb memes at midnight like nothing about any of this ever happened, and his name is the first one you answer. Here's the insight worth carrying out of this whole video. At $11.50 an hour, nobody asked about your work because it didn't seem worth asking about. At the top of this ladder, nobody asks about your work because they've quietly decided it's too far outside anything they know to ask about without guessing wrong. The job changed size 8 times over. The number of people willing to just ask about your actual day went the opposite direction. So here's the full arc, said plainly. At $11.50 an hour, your manager doesn't know your last name, and the job asks nothing of you except to show up on time. At the first title, you do more thinking for the same pay and call it progress. At $52,000, the job stops explaining the basics to you and starts assuming you already know them. Managing 5 people teaches you that blame travels downhill onto your desk long before authority ever travels uphill to match it. At director, your own father runs out of easy questions to ask about your day, because the honest ones would require him to admit he doesn't recognize the job anymore. At vice president, you become a reference point in your own industry before you ever notice it happening. At your first million in career earnings, your own family goes quiet about your job, not because they stopped caring, but because nobody taught them the words for being proud of something this unfamiliar. At chief officer, you start sorting your own relatives by whether a job opening would come up in the conversation. And at the top, founder, CEO, whatever the title ends up being, work stops being something you apply for and becomes something that applies for you. Notice the shape of that arc. Every single level handed you more authority at work and took away a little more of your family's ability to just talk to you plainly about it. That trait isn't a flaw in how you built your career. It's the part nobody mentions because nobody in most families ever climbs far enough to run into it. Somewhere in your family, there's still a person who asks about your actual day instead of your job title, the version where you're just tired, or something went well, or nothing happened at all. Find that person before you hit level 4, not after, because the higher you climb, the rarer that question gets. and you'll want to already know who still asks it. If you want the Career Ladder Diagnostic, the free tool that shows you exactly where you sit right now and the one move to reach the next level, the link's in the description. It's free. Drop a comment with the level your job is at right now. And if you want to see this same climb from the money side instead of the job side, the video right here walks the same ladder measured by net worth instead. And before you go, if this helped, like it and subscribe so the next one finds you.